I am pleased to welcome Sasha Dobson for a chat today. And
Hello.
yeah, man. Hey, like
Hi.
congratulations.
Thank
Congratulations on
you
your
so
new
much.
record. Absolutely.
Thanks. It came
Absolutely.
out.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
out.
I
It's
know that
great.
feeling, man. That's so great. That's so great.
It's a good feeling.
Mhm.
Strange to put a record out during a pandemic
Right.
since
Right.
we are still in somewhat deep waters.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's still happening.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. Indeed. I mean, you guys just really came together and made just a really brilliant project. And as we've, kind of been talking offline some,
Yeah.
I like the fact that I can almost hear, you know, your other career, informing this. It's a very organic way to make the music. I do want to ask you about that first. When you first came to the scene, you sang jazz, and I first heard of you from the Chris Byers record that you did with him on Smalls Records. But very shortly after that, you began your career as a singer-songwriter. And I
Yeah.
want to know if there are any influences that you take, from the rock world, from the Americana world, that inform the way that you sing, the Great American Songbook and swinging music.
That's right. We touched upon that a little bit earlier. And you know what? It's true. I mean, I think I'm a better jazz. I think I just have a more rounded, as we do when we get older. Like I have a little bit more of a balanced outlook on humanity, on myself, and and music in general. Where I maybe around before I did that album with Chris Byers, and in my early days in New York, my early days in life, it was just so all about jazz. I didn't really even have an awareness for anything outside of that. And then I went completely into this other world, out of survival and total curiosity and, one, bewilderment or, and it's definitely informed the way that I present what I do as a jazz musician, particularly like as a soloist. I don't need to take 13 scat courses. I mean, sometimes. No, I'm kidding. I don't think I ever did need to take 13 courses, but I mean, I definitely feel a little bit more inclined about parts and roles, where it was
Mm,
a little bit more like free for all back in the day, like jam session vibes.
right,
And,
right.
I'm definitely more particular about parts and roles as a band leader especially particularly in jazz.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. There's an order to this new recording, Girl Talk, that I hear in the ensemble. And you've got just such a great band with you. Cats like Kenny Wallison and Neil Miner and also Peter Bernstein, and just how you guys got together on this. I really want people to hear it. I think it's really special. Talk to me a little bit about Peter Bernstein. When did you first meet him, and when did you know right away that he was the cat for this particular recording?
Well, Peter was one of like my first, I mean, in my early days when I moved to New York, which was in 1997. It's strange, crazy. It's crazy to say that, but I was 17,
Wow.
and I got out of high school early, moved to New York, went to the new school, and spent my nights like getting into whatever jazz clubs I could back in the day. I mean, New York, they didn't really card back then. And I used to follow people like Pete. Pete was one of the cats that I would follow around and check out. And I used to spend a lot of time, as you know, at Smalls. And so, he was just someone that I always looked up to. And, over the years, of course, we all just become friends. If you hang out long enough, you start to just make friends with everyone in the scene.
That's right.
And I reconnected with Pete a few years ago, I think at Mesro, and we got talking, and it just planted a seed in my brain, like, I mean, I've been performing jazz and staying active on the jazz scene, but not really publicly. It's not like I ever publicly put out a jazz record. I mean, if you follow my career and you're following my social media, then you would know, oh, she's singing at Smalls tonight, you know. But other than that, if you're only following me as a recording artist, you might not know that I've been actively singing jazz all these years in New York City and in California when I'm back, you know, when I'm back home. Anyway, I just, something happened when I reconnected with Pete where I thought, oh, wow, I really still want to do this. I really want this to be a part of what I do. You know, I want this also to be on my Spotify playlist. You know, my, I, I set out to do this as a young artist and I didn't realize how much I still really wanted in, you know, I mean, I think we touched a little bit upon it before, but you know, I lost my dad, who was a big jazz mentor and jazz guy on the scene, a jazz
Mm,
pianist. And I think you know, when we lost my dad 20 years ago, I think I just sort of stepped out and thought, I'm not going to do anything that feels bad. I'm not going to, you know, this is a little too hard for me to
I understand.
pursue this path.
Mm,
But after all these years and having so many years to recover and so many years to expand, you know, coming back to jazz has been one of like the greatest, most profoundly rewarding things as an artist I've ever gotten to do. It's strange because I have as much energy to sing jazz as I did when I was younger. And it's like this big bucket of gold that I didn't know I had, you know, inside, you know,
yeah.
like personal. I mean, anybody, some people like jazz, some people don't. I definitely didn't take the commercial route here on this project, but it's just, I have this belief that, you know, you put so much love into something, you know, that's
Mm,
gonna translate,
that's right.
you know,
That's right.
gotta
Yeah.
be honest.
Absolutely, absolutely. One
So,
of the tunes of many that really caught my ear on this was "The Great City."
oh,
That's
cool.
one that Nancy Wilson. I'm such a Nancy Wilson head.
My God, me too.
I remember my first trip to New York. I was at the Blue Note catching another show and went back to the gift shop, and lo and behold, Nancy Wilson is on the stage, and I just kind of secretly sat on the stairs as long as I could just to be in her
Oh,
presence. You
I'm
know,
jealous.
it was crazy.
Amazing.
But I love that song, and I'm so happy that you chose it. I really like the energy that you bring to it.
Thanks.
What kind of piqued your curiosity, you know, about the tune, and is that indicative of how you feel about New York now? I'm just curious about your
I
relationship.
mean, oh yeah, that's funny. It is kind of like a mixed message there. I mean, honestly, even though it's tough, I mean, it's true. If you come in, I think whenever I go home, meaning California, the Bay Area, so many family members and all whom are all jazz musicians. I have so much love and support out there. But having spent my adult life and build my career in New York, it's impossible to leave this place. It's this strange love hate because I think when I'm in California, I think, why don't I live here? This is
Mm,
the gorgeous place ever. But then it's just all about being in New York. So that part of the message of that song definitely I relate to. Honestly, the reason why I chose that song, and it was the second recording we did, which was officially in the middle of the pandemic. We went back into the studio, recorded a new song I wrote, which was Better Days, and we
yes.
recorded The Great City and a couple others that I think we didn't use. But I just thought it would be sort of a tribute to what New York is going through, particularly last summer. I mean, the whole city was closed down, taped down, doors locked, wood over windows. I mean, it was crazy. It
Yeah.
was crazy. It gives me chills just thinking about it because it's insane to think we've just been through that, you know.
Yeah.
But I just thought it would be a tribute to New York, you know.
Mhm.
Um, I love Nancy's version. I love Nancy Wilson, period. That version, she sings that song to killing. And
Mhm.
is it Nelson Riddle or someone who arranges? Isn't that with a big band? I can't
Yeah,
remember who.
yeah, that version was. Uh-huh.
I don't know who's ranges it, um, but I also love Shirley Horn's version on that album,
Mhm.
Horn with Horns, and the best album cover ever. I wish I had it ready for you, but I love Shirley Horn, and I love that version too. That's, I think, how I was originally turned on to it. And then Neil, you know, who's my aids my efforts and all that I lack as an arranger and, you know, band leader. You know, he's definitely plays the role as a musical director in our collaboration. Neil Miner, the bass player,
Yes.
and put a chart together and said, here, Pete, do this, you know, and Pete, okay, you know, I mean, it's amazing working with these musical creatures, especially, you know, because I don't get to do it as much now. And they're all so busy. I mean, it's a little scary. As soon as I put this record out, I was all fired up to figure out how to book a few gigs out of town with Pete. And he was like, well, I'm booked until next year. You know, I was like, oh my God, I forgot you're famous. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
working with Nora or anybody, you know, you got to really like lay low and just wait for the right timing. And just, I'm lucky that I got to make this record at the very least, you know. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm rambling. Here we go
No,
again.
this is all good. You're safe here. You're safe.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, man, I really dug the vibe on that song. And you actually led me to my next question, you know, better days, you know, seeing a little bit into the future. And I
Man,
love it that you are a songwriter, because addressing the moment, even in a project like this, there has to be kind of a word for the day. And I feel like that's what, for me, you know, this song was. Tell me a little bit about that. Better Days.
yeah. It's actually got a cool story. Excuse me.
Mhm.
As a full hair on. Um, Man, this is why I'm like so fired up to get back in the studio. You know, I knew, I mean, I'm lucky that I got that second session in. And I think I didn't quite know what I wanted to do with this project when we recorded, which was 2 weeks before the pandemic.
Mhm.
And we had enough. I just was like, I want to actually, I think the reason why I went in there was to record something we didn't even end up using. That's right. I scheduled that second session because I was fired up to do some duo stuff with Pete. But
Okay.
then I ended up writing Better Days like the night before the session and ended up throwing on the full band last minute. It's a little scattered, but Better Days came because I put that session on the books. And then of course, as a songwriter, you know, you put yourself on a timeline, stuff happens. As soon as if that's why it's like, if I can afford to book 1 or 2 days, it means that new songs are just going to come because your brain, I don't know, the pressure or just I mean, if I don't book something, you know, I don't know what that's what, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is Better Days came because I scheduled that session and I wrote it the day before we recorded.
Mhm.
I said, hey man, do you think you guys want to check this song out? I wrote it last night and it was the first song, first take, first note we played at that session is what you hear at the top of the album. I was like, all right, you know, I mean, I remember I almost didn't ask because these guys are heavy. And especially Pete, I mean, they're all equally incredible. Kenny Wallison, you know, but Kenny's like family. I've known him since I was a little girl. We're both
Ah,
from the same hometown in Santa
okay.
Cruz.
Mhm.
Kenny's played in my father's band, played drums. He played drums in my mom's band. He's collaborated with my brother. I know him mostly because he's really good friends with my brother Smith, Smith Jr. And but because I spent all these years in New York, Kenny and I have crossed paths for a number of different reasons through Nora and through, you know, a lot of different scenes. And so he's mostly worked with me as a songwriter. But whenever I get the chance to get him on a jazz project, it's really unique,
Right on.
different. Yeah.
Right on.
I
Yeah.
apologize for going all over the place, but
This
yeah, that's how Better Days came. You know, just
yeah.
getting these guys together and then my energy just explodes.
That's great. That's great, Sasha. I was actually reading an interview or listening to an interview clip with DJ Premier, the hip hop producer, and he was like, "Yeah, we always make our singles as the last song of the session because we want to get it out of the oven straight into
Uh-huh.
people's ears." So like that makes perfect sense to me, and that you would
Yeah, right.
album off with this, like it's timely, it's the most current statement that you made in this context, and it works. It
I'm
works.
so glad.
Yeah.
I didn't have any of that planned when it happened. It was very like, you want to try this? But then, yeah,
Mhm.
it made sense.
That's
So
awesome. That's awesome.
I can't wait to write something new. I mean, this whole year has
Mhm.
been so strange for momentum. And as far as like relying on work to be inspired and write more and do things, everything is all messed up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I got a lot of energy from playing gigs. So
Yeah.
now what? You know?
Yeah. I mean, how are you doing? I mean, it's crazy to think
So
that everything was just taken away, from
yeah,
many of our creators, in the arts community. How are you doing? Like how are
yeah.
you finding ways to motivate yourself and look forward to things?
I don't know. No,
Okay.
no,
Okay.
I'm kidding. I'm at a tender age, a wise age and a tender age where I feel, thank God I have enough life experience to, I know how to draw strength in ways,
Hmm.
I do yoga every day, I meditate every day, I love to cook, I live by the beach, so I take full advantage of nature.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
gotta say though, I maybe one of my faults as an adult is that the survival mode is so strong. Sometimes I think I forget to take a step back and go, wow, this is really heavy, and I'm a little broken.
Mm,
Like my heart. I try not to think too much about it because you just got to keep going, and be
yeah.
ready. A lot of mentors I've had over the years, one of the great sayings, I've been told many times is, what is it? Success equals when preparation meets opportunity. So, you
Mm,
just got to hang in there, practice, stay healthy,
mhm.
stay ready,
Yeah.
because things will eventually pick up. And, um, I mean, I know we all wish we did more during this strange time of like pause. I wish that I should be like so much better on piano, guitar. It's like I didn't really. I wish that I had like 17 new songs. Mostly just hung in there. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
How are you doing?
Thanks for asking. I'm doing pretty good, I think. Relocating from Nashville in January 2020, things were a buzz and I had started to get around a little bit, but everything went on pause in, March,
That is
April.
insane.
So
Right after
it's
you got, or right after you got here.
yeah, yeah. But it's okay. I believe everything is for a reason, and there's a reason, that I'm here right now. It's still being revealed, but it's been awesome, even in this series, to be able to meet, folks like you, to hear more about the artistic process and to still, not only meet new people, but to put the spotlight, on folks, who are able to still conquer and bring forth projects even in
Right.
this season. Like it's motivational, honestly. So it's no small feat that you did this, and I know you're proud. You should be, because it's a
Thanks.
huge undertaking to be able to have this full circle moment, really, during this time. And the next question I really want to ask you is, I feel like you have a very strong sense of who you are in your artistry. Your original, offerings were, singer-songwriter, and in that space that you felt, this is what I need to do. This is my community. It feels natural. What would you say to a young musician or a young singer that is really grappling with what they should be doing
Right.
versus what is really in their heart, or even what people are telling them that they should do? How do you negotiate
That
all
is
of those
an amazing
things?
question. I do think there's that fine line of pushing yourself beyond what you feel super comfortable doing,
Mhm.
because there's so many times, especially, 10 years ago when I was really starting to step into uncharted territory for my own path, uh, where I had to step in really unfamiliar waters. And it was the best thing I ever did for myself. And it was scary as hell,
Yeah.
But so, there's that fine line of pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. But then there's the other side of the spectrum where there's so much around that time 10 years ago that I was so sad still for my personal loss, that
Yeah.
I didn't have like the strength or confidence to go, hey, I think jazz is really cool and I don't care what anybody thinks. Um, I'm going to do this. I think back when I, was starting to make friends, and my career was strangely opening up in this world as a songwriter that I had just stepped into. I spent my whole life singing jazz, and all of a sudden I pick up a guitar and suddenly everybody cares. I mean, that's kind of how it felt.
Uh-huh.
It was
Uh-huh.
really weird. But I was I had so much pain around losing my dad that I thought, you know, I think A, I knew he would support it, and B, I knew it just as human nature that whatever felt good was probably the right thing to do, and it was
Mm.
just easier and lighter and fun. It was fun to try something new. Songwriting was really hard and still is, but
Mm.
it was rewarding in a totally different way.
Mm.
But back to your question, I mean, I think, you know, following your heart and doing whatever brings you like personal joy is definitely a great guiding tone for,
Uh-huh.
I don't know, man. It's a tough business and a tough path to be an artist, and so much of the reward is the work that you put out there. Personal reward.
Mm-hmm.
Often it isn't money.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you gotta do what brings you joy, and then the joy is what for me brings me inspiration. And then if I'm
Right.
happy and thinking about work, meaning art or songs, or I want to pick up a guitar and practice, or I gotta practice, if I'm thinking that way, I know I'm about to write something, or something good's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've learned to take very, very, very good care of myself, because that if I feel good, you know, on the inside and the outside, then it's going to reflect in all the work that I do. So,
Right.
it took me a while to figure that out, even
Okay.
though it's really obvious. I mean, I wasn't that bad as a young adult, but I definitely didn't understand like that it kind of comes from like personal inner wealth, outer, if
Right.
you feel really
Right.
good and healthy and strong, it's going to
Hmm.
come out. Anyway, I
Absolutely.
don't know if
No,
that's
that's
too all over the place, but
I think there's a lot of wisdom in what you said. And like I said, I really appreciate um your candor, and also, your artistic honesty. Like I again, this is a really good album. And I think that all of these experiences that you've had, galvanizing to this point, is really going to turn some heads and open some eyes. It's hard to plan, I know, during this period.
yeah, it's so hard.
Yeah.
You said it.
But
I finally learned to like calm down. I mean, even
mm,
just in the last week, like you've got to chill out.
mm, mhm.
Can't plan. Find something else to work on. you know.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. But do you think the relationship, is changing between, the industry has told us, hey, we have to make these albums and we have to go on the road, because if we don't appear before the people, they won't, buy our album or whatever it is, I personally would love to see that relationship, you know, modify, because I feel like there's sometimes undue pressure for artists to really have to spend, gobbles of money being on the road, especially when you're coming from an independent place, to
Right.
promote, to be on stage. That's what we love to do. But, there is risk involved. A lot of people don't know that. But just if you could, just, from your perspective, as this pandemic has, kind of shaken things up, do you see that relationship changing at all? Are we still going to have to really tour behind albums to really make impact? Or do you think there are other ways that we can, get our music into the hands and the ears of the people?
I mean, I just know that because we suddenly weren't able to tour or do gigs at all, it just seemed like the only way was through, word of mouth, social media, and you know, the internet, which I hate that word. Well, obviously through, you know, I had my album pressed to vinyl because
Wow.
that to me feels like the longest standing option. Like my records are 60 years old. You know, I
Yeah.
have records that are so old and they're still playable and they're still inscribed to someone I don't even know. Or, you know, I find it so fascinating that I have a record that was owned by probably 4 or 5 other people, maybe, or maybe it's an original pressing, or I don't know. So I just figured like
Mhm.
the grassroots, like longevity of having something pressed to vinyl to me is like so groovy, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and privileged. I mean, I know I'm really lucky that I was able to do that because it's an expensive thing, but then it lasts. It's like having a
Yeah.
book out, you know.
True.
And this particular project meant so much to me. I just was like, we gotta, you know, press this to vinyl. But yeah, I don't really know. I know personally, like it hurts, like on a it really hurts to not be able to play shows, play
Hmm.
for people, and to just not to not constantly be playing music, that music, or the music that I wrote with Puss in Boots, or my
Hmm.
other music, you know, just to not be actively performing that stuff is, it's almost like going, like not being able to talk to somebody, you know,
Yes.
it's so strange.
Yeah.
But I guess I personally would love to go back out on the road. I just don't even know like where to begin. It's all just
Mm.
very strange right now.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
that that's what you asked, but yeah, I don't know. Do you have any ideas on how to get my music out there? Because I
Well,
will gladly do it. I mean, I worked a little bit on a couple of music videos because that seemed like what
that's where I was
people.
going next.
Oh,
Tell us
cool.
about
Okay.
that. Tell us about that.
I mean, the music video thing, it's it's a complicated endeavor unless you're going to use your iPhone, which is also complicated.
Hmm.
But it's a whole other book report, you know, to make a music video. But it
Hmm.
seems like these days it's what people, it's almost like back in the MTV days, you know, it was like this explosion in the mid 80s. You know, now it's kind of like maybe even in some ways it's almost like a faster way to get people to listen to the music than to actually have them listen to it is to watch the music, you know.
Right.
They need the visual. We all
Yeah.
need so many different stimulations at the same time that like it seems like
Mhm.
video is almost like a way in. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I like the video, I guess I'll check out the album. It's not the other way around, you know.
Mhm.
So I don't know what the kids like, man.
Everybody's figuring it out. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. But the video thing has been cool. I was lucky enough to work with a couple of amazing directors this time. I mean, I can't believe I managed to get anything done. I think, honestly, I think this particular project happened and the videos and the collaborations happened because everyone was home and no one
Yeah.
had anything else to do. So
Yeah.
everyone was just fired up to do anything creative. And then, of
Right.
course, you know, the video, you know, everyone was like, what? Pete Bernstein's going to be in the video? Okay. I'll edit it, you know. I mean, it was definitely like a collaborative energy where people were just excited to be a part of it.
Hmm. That's really cool.
Yeah, I lucked out.
Yeah. Right on. Right on. Well, I know you're going to be at Birdland in
Yeah.
October.
I got one gig.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I'm so glad. I was, man, when I finally got, because I wasn't sure where we were going to do the album release. And I thought,
Right.
we got to do an album release, man. But I kind of was like, because people are booking, the few clubs that are open, people are booking from 2 years ago, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone's trying to get the gigs
Yeah.
that were lost. And
Hmm.
anyway, but Birdland came through.
Congrats, man. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
That's
I'm
awesome.
very excited. Smith, my brother, is going to fly out
Oh, cool.
California and play vibes and the full band from the record. So I can't wait.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well,
Please come.
sure.
If
Thank you. Yes,
I have a
absolutely.
ticket for you and your partner.
Thank you so much.
If you happen to be around, please come.
We would love to. We would love to.
Awesome.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. I'll get you to hang on really quick,
Okay,
but Sasha,
sure.
it's been a pleasure
Thank
talking
you
to
so
you.
much. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely.